Good day, everyone. This is Stephanie Shudad. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. For today's discussions, I am going to discuss to you the lesson 5.2, which is entitled Curriculum Evaluations Through Learning Assessment. So here are our learning outcomes. At the end of the lesson, the student should be able to first explain how a curriculum can be evaluated through the assessment of learning outcomes. We're going to identify the levels of learning outcomes vis-a-vis level of assessments, and also we're going to match levels of learning outcomes with the appropriate assessment tools. And the last one is interpret the value of assessment in terms of grade assigned. So we have gone a long way in understanding, interpreting, and applying the concept of curriculum development, right? So now we will continue to understand that curriculum can be evaluated right in the teacher classroom. So now we are going to find out if the plan, the written, and also the implemented curriculum are functioning as intended in the assessment of learning is very crucial. So in this lesson, let us find out if the assessment of learning is an evaluation process that tells whether the intended learning outcomes through the teaching learning process have been converted into learning outcomes. So we will also find out that learning outcomes can be measured through the use of different assessment. Now let's further discuss the content focus of this lesson. So the first one is the Philippines Qualifications Framework, or the PQF. So PQF is a reference system of national standard of what qualification one has earned by educations and training in the Philippines. So it specifies what an individual has learned in and out of formal schooling, or it is a lifelong learning based on qualifications level and degree of competencies on knowledge, skills, applications, values, and degree of independence. So according to RA 10968-2018, a person is deemed qualified if he or she achieved the specific learning outcomes necessary for the academic work and community requirements for which officials' qualification recognition shall be conferred. So, meaning, a person can be qualified if nakamit niya yung, na-achieve niya yung specific learning outcomes necessary for the academic work and so on. So now let's take a look in the Philippines qualifications framework. So as you can see in the pictures or in the diagram, it shows the level from basic educations to higher education. So as you can see, the PQF is divided into 8 levels from level 1 to level 8. So the basic educations there is from the grade 12 or senior high school graduate. And as you can see, there is the technical educations and skills development is from the NC1, NC2, NC3, and NC4 and diploma. So the higher education there include baccalaureate, post-baccalaureate, and also doctoral and postdoctoral. So from grade 12, it's either they can go up to the diploma or to higher education. So it depends on the person. It depends on the person of what they're going to choose. In all 8 levels, the individual is expected to achieve specific standards and competency as evidenced in the learning outcomes. So the competencies are clustered into 3 domains, which are the first one is knowledge, skills, and values. The second one is applications. The third one is the degree of independence in responsibility. Let's proceed to the next slide. So now let's take a look in the levels and competencies descriptions required for its level for basic and higher education's level. So as you can see in the first domain, we have the knowledge, skills, and values. So as you can see in the pictures or in the diagram, the PQF number 1 are grade 12. The second one naman is the PQF's number 6 is the baccalaureate degree. The PQF number 7 is the master's degree, and the PQF number 8 is the doctoral and postdoctoral degree. Here are the first domain. The PQF number 1 are the grade 12, right, that are expected to possess functional knowledge across the range of learning areas and technical skills in choosing career tracks and so on with the use of technology. So the second one is to understanding of right or wrong, one history and cultural heritage, deep respect of self and others. So here in the PQF number 6, which is the baccalaureate degree, they are expected to possess broad and coherent knowledge in the field of discipline or professions. So when it comes to PQF number 7, which is the master's degree, they are expected to possess broad and deep knowledge, as you can see, in the field of disciplines or professions. So the last one is the PQF number 8, the doctoral and postdoctoral degree. As you can see, they are expected to generate new knowledge, skills with established values in the discipline or professions. So the next domain is the applications and followed by the degree of independence. So allow me to not read it because it's too long and it's time consuming. So but note, I want to emphasize that the level 1, there is the NC1, the level 2 is the NC2, and the level 3 is the NC3, and the level 4 is the NC4, and the level 5 will be certificated by the TISDA. Well, level 5 diploma may either be awarded by TISDA or CHED in their respective program. So that's it. Okay, so much for that. So now let's proceed to the matching the competency and outcomes with the PQF by doing learning assessment. So the mastery of learning outcomes in terms of knowledge, process, understanding, performance are measured in formal education with the basic education. So this often referred to as assessment. So I know all of you are very, very familiar with the word assessment because every day natatakal po natin siya. And by doing assessment, we can easily, the teacher can easily able to determine the strength and the weakness of the student. So, in terms of assessments, mas madali mong malaman kung saan yung mga weaknesses and yung mga strength ng mga estudyante mo. Kung paano mo sila, paano ka come up into more strategies on how you are going to teach your students with a lot of strategies that you can think of. So next, in the year 2012, the DepEd issued the Department Order number 73, which is the K-12 grading system. So it was known as KPUP grading system, or stand for knowledge, process, understanding, performance. So this reflect a learning outcomes that are arranged in complexity. So as you can see in the table, now we have the knowledge there, which is the basic levels of learning outcomes, and the next slide is the performance as the advanced level. So now, as you can see in the table, we have level 1 to 4 in the next slide. In level 1, under the descriptions of learning outcomes, we have the level 1. Level 1 there is knowledge, which require the use of factual knowledge, conceptual, and so on, and metacognition also. So there are sample guide questions that you can see there, which is what do you want your students to know in terms of facts, in terms of concepts, procedures. So example there is how to dissect a frog. So in the second level naman, we have which is the process. We have the process, which we're in the skills that are that the students use based on the facts naman and informations for making meaning and understanding. So here we can see there that we have the guide sample questions. What do you want your students to understand? So example there is how do the elements of weather interact to produce a climate change? So next, okay, now in level 3 we have understanding, which making meaning to big ideas and concepts. So it is what do you want your students to understand. So there are the sample guide questions and you can read it naman. So level 4 is the product, or it is a performance, which is it is an evidence of learning. Now let's proceed to the assessment tools for each level of learning outcome. So we've discussed earlier about the KPU learning. Sabi ko kanina, it is a learning outcome. So which is students can gain knowledge, and those knowledge they can able to apply it and have achieve the several meaning on particular knowledge. So, sa madaling salita, ma-achieve yung learning outcomes na gusto ng teacher and maka-learn yung students. Okay, so much for that. So here are the types of tests to measure knowledge, process, and understanding. So we have two type of tests, which is the first one is objective test and the second one is subjective test. So when we say objective test, it is a test that require only one correct answer. So masasabi natin na it is difficult to construct but easy to check, right? So the second one is the subjective test, which is it is a learning outcomes which indicate learners' ability to originate and express idea. Here are the example of objective test, which is the first one is the pencil and paper test, wherein it is a written on paper and requires a pencil to write. So under the pencil and paper test, we have here the simple recall, which is the most common to measure knowledge. So some examples of simple recall are fill in the blanks, enumerations, and also identification. So the next one is the alternative response test, where two options or choices are provided, and also in here the items can be stated in the questions or in a statement form, just like for example modified true or false and also yes or no. So next is the multiple choice test, a type identified as the most versatile test, the type because it can measure a variety of learning outcomes. Next is the matching type test. It is the most common and made up of two parallel columns rather. So under in the matching type test, we have the perfect matching type and also the imperfect matching type. So alam ko naman na you are very familiar with this type of test because lagi natin itong nakikita sa mga exams natin. And also under the subjective test, we have the essays. I know you are very familiar with it, and this essay which allows students freedom of response. They are free to select or relate and represent ideas on their own words. And also makikita natin dito yung higher order thinking skills, kung paano nila i-present yung mga ideas nila. Level 4 of the learning outcome when it comes to KPUP, it can be assessed through the process, through the performance or the product. So this assessment can be done through the use of authentic evaluations. So when we say authentic evaluation, it is a test that measures real-life tasks or the performance or the actual product. So here are the list of performance assessment tools. We have here the first one. We have the checklist. which consists of a list of qualities that are expected to be observed as a presence or absence. The second one is rating scale. It is a tool that uses scale in a number line as a basic to estimate the numerical value of a performance or a product. So the most popular is the Likert scale. I know all of you are very familiar with it. So the last one is the rubrics for portfolio. So when we say portfolio, it is a compilations of the experiences as authentic learning outcomes, the reflections, and able to assess this portfolio rubric is utilized. The levels of assessment describe levels of the learning outcomes, which first the knowledge, the second one is the process or the skills, the third one is the understanding, and the last one is the performance. So note that the level of learning outcomes are used to describe the levels of assessment. Diba? So as what I have said that through the DepEd Order 73/2012, the levels of learning outcomes are also the levels of assessment. So this also follow the levels of thinking skills from lower to higher level. So as what you can see in the table, we have the levels of learning outcomes, which from the level 1 to 3, and also we see what to assess and what type of assessment should be used. For example, paper or pencil type pa siya, or non-pencil or paper types, and also the percentage value and the assessment. So I'm not going to read it all because it is very understandable. Now, let's see what summative assessment is. So, when we say summative assessment, it is composed of written work, the performance tasks, and also the quarterly assessment. So, as what you have seen in the table, they are three components. And we see there the purpose of every components and also kung kailan dapat siya ibibigay. So, okay, let's discuss the grades at the end of the school year and how are these computed. So, when it comes to kindergarten, so they use a checklist and also anecdotal records and as well as portfolios instead of numerical grades, so which based on the kindergarten curriculum guide. So when it comes to grade 1 to grade 10 naman, which is the junior high school, the average of the quarter produced the end of the year grade. So the general average also is computed by dividing the sum of all the final grades by the total numbers of learning areas. So each learning areas has equal weight. Equal weight. Let's take a look in the tables. As you can see there, all the components are present and the percentage in all subjects. So when it comes to grade 11 and grade 12 or the senior high school, the average of the quarterly grade produce the semester grade. So the general average is computed by dividing the sum of all the semestral final grade by the total number of learning areas. So, di ba sa senior high school natin, we have 2 semester. 2 semester. And then, i-add lang yun lahat para makuha yung final grade. So, as you can see in the table, in senior high school, mayroon pong different tracks na kinukuha yung mga estudyante wherein we have the academic track and the TBL the TBL, and a lot of track you can use when it comes to when it comes to choosing the best track for the students. So as you can see in the table, we have all components are present also, and meron doon kung ilang percentage ba yung ginagamit or nilalagay in every subjects, because in senior high school mayroon pong immersion na nagaganap, so meron ding pong percentage na nilalagay. Now let's proceed to the last slide. This is the last we're going to discuss. So report summative grade by quarter or semesters or end of the year. So interpretations of the numerical value for all subjects areas is based on the minimum initial grade of 60. So transmuted into an equivalent of 75 in the report card. So the numerical grades are described in the different levels of proficiency in the different competency set in the subject areas. So, as you can see in the table below, we can see the level of proficiency descriptions from beginning to advanced, which from 74% up to 90% above. Thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you learned something from me.